Well, the goal for the addict is simple. It's independence. Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's sobriety. Sobriety is a given. You know, our goal when we meet a person that suffers from addiction is simple: 100% autonomy and independence.
I met Art actually, was at the National Night Out. You know, I've lost the trust from my family, my daughter, my girl. When I'm going through hard times, I isolate from my family. I get I'm filled with guilt and shame. I don't want them to see me going down that path. I just seized an opportunity, and then when I got here, it's been life-changing ever since.
With Battlefield, if we can get that family in a position and get the addict in a position that we can put the whole thing on trial and get to some truth, and not to find anyone guilty or not guilty, but to actually just look at everybody's simple portion of this.
So I think the main change for me is I realized that this was a lifelong journey. I just became responsible for everything in my life. I understood moving forward, if I wanted a good life, it was up to me. There's no one really that was gonna motivate me on a daily basis to stay clean. You know, I don't ever want to be not a present father in my daughter's life, and I know that in order for her to have the life that she deserves, I have to stay clean, and that's definitely a motivating factor for me. I see myself, working in treatment the rest of my life now. I think without Battlefield, I'd be really lonely. At this point, I would definitely be alone by myself. Whether that's in a hotel or on the street, I don't know. I'd be surrounded by negative people. I might be in jail, or I might be dead. Those are basically your three options if you continue to use.
I think with us, we hold everybody accountable, but more importantly, holding the drug addict accountable for, what it is that they've done, because that's all that really matters. And then help mend their own family after that, and what do they need to make amends for, and what do they need to do.
I'd just like to tell my family, thanks for never giving up on me. I felt guilty, felt ashamed, and you guys went to work every day and tried to provide me the best life you possibly could. And I really appreciate the love and work you guys put in to give me the life that I had.
I learned so much more about my own son through helping families. It's such a gift for me to work one-on-one with these moms and dads, and then ultimately meeting their loved one. It actually fuels me, and it makes me I just seek more understanding through the eyes of these parents that are currently fighting.
Having Angie do the family work and having her as this connector to kind of be behind that family, and also putting them in and holding them accountable and saying, you got to be here and you got to show up. That was the formula that we started years ago, and we've just improved upon that. We've really got a good thing going in the family work in that aspect.
Of course, first meeting, they're asking you why you're there, and I think I was crying, and he said that if it's a tragedy for you, it's always going to be a tragedy, and you're never going to learn and grow from it.
With the family, it's moving on, getting over it, freeing them. Absolute freedom from this once their loved one gets into independence. Freedom to move on, freedom to go on vacation. We all see now kind of what's happened. We all get it. And there's nobody still hanging on. Nobody's holding anything over each other. All resentments cleared.
We thought there was an end game, that you did this, this, and this, and then it was over. And then you just moved on with your life. Came to realize quickly that as soon as you found that point where you thought would be the end game, it's like you were gardening or something, and you had this plant or something that was blooming, and the first bloom went out, you went out and cut it off. Like, that was the end. That was the end of what I needed. That's the end of the work I needed to do. And you didn't let all these other things blossom. And I wish people would just give it a chance for longer than a meeting or 2 meetings or 10 meetings. Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons I keep coming back. One is just gratitude for what they've done for our family. Once you make a decision to maybe do some service, that's where you truly are. So you can move away from your own problems and identification with that problem, and you put yourself out there for somebody else. I think that's the reason I stay attached to Battlefield.
First couple of years, I wasn't sure if there really was a place for me here, because it was so hard to not be sad all the time. And Battlefield and what Angie does and what she's been through gives me inspiration for what I can do, because I don't want any parent to have to feel what we feel every day. I want to be a big part of this, and it does help me feel like I'm doing something, because I didn't know what to do with myself, and I didn't know what to do with all these feelings, and I want to be able to be somebody that can help other people, and other people that are in our situation, not just people that are helping their kids in treatment and stuff, but people that have lost their kids or their loved ones. There's a wonderful support here. And I do get things out of the meetings, even though my son is no longer here.
There's this important piece that needs to be given the attention that it deserves, so that way at our events, our loved ones are honored the way that they should be honored and remembered. It's too difficult at first, as we know, and and so it takes some time, but once they're in the community, then they'll be part of the community and they'll see it for themselves. But it's so important that somebody head it up and give it the attention that it needs. That community is absorbing into the community of those still in the battle and those in recovery, that we're all one and we all have a part. Now, when we first started this 10 years ago, our tagline was reconnecting the family, the addict, and the community. And we have been working in the first two segments for all these years, and just in the last 6 months, we've moved into the community. We always knew that that was ultimately an outcome that we wanted to move into, but we were a little bit shy about that because we go out in the community and we say certain things, and it can be shocking because it's the opposite of what the typical things that you hear, the cliches out there. But now we're at the point where we're losing so many of our loved ones that we don't have a choice but to get out there and be more bold about what we believe.
There's no data to analyze in this work, none. There's no data that helps, there's nothing. There's, are they sober or are they not? There's less people dying or more, that's it. But right now we have a culture change that needs to happen. And so it has to be, this isn't allowed. Fentanyl needs to be stigmatized. When we wanted to get rid of smoking in public, we stigmatized it. When we want to get rid of a behavior, we deem it bad. And when we deem it bad, now we can start the work of fixing it. We can start lessening the problem. And I don't know any other scenario in the world that we would let somebody do something that has the capability of killing them instantaneously. I don't know anywhere else that we would do that.
You see what works for a family, and community is just a larger version of a family, basically. And everybody does need to get on board, just like a family does, and do the right things. I can see it working if our communities are doing the right thing. So I'm very excited to be a part of that.
Yeah, and I think for our 7 years, Battlefield's done an unbelievable job with the first two parts of their philosophy of addict, family, and community. And we've done a really good job with the addict and the family, but we haven't been able to get our message out to community. And I think our community needs to get on the court with this, or we're not going to get any solution to the problem. We can't put the burden all on the addict and the family. The community has to play a role and be outraged about what's going on in their own communities.
There is something you can do. We're taught you have to wait for your loved one to reach bottom. You have to wait till they're ready. You can't change it. None of that's true.
The community work is really getting us, number one, getting us a seat at the table. And so 6 months ago in 2024, this year, Battlefield has really stepped into getting our name out there, getting connected with leaders, bringing in politicians, and getting to the point where we put our work on display and say, this is what works over here, and this is what's going to work going forward. But we first have to get enough power as Battlefield to get our seat at the table and expand it. And eventually hoping that Battlefield will lead that table. See, whenever you make a move with an addict or a family or a community, You don't need to ask yourself how this program starts or how this move that you're making starts. You need to ask yourself how it ends. How does it end? And if you can't see how it ends, don't do it. We need a full-time outreach person so that we can make these connections and kind of build business with connections with people so that we can say, we're here to stand for what's right. We understand that business has been devastated by what's being allowed. And we want to stick up for business. We want to stick up for business owners that have people sleeping on their sidewalks. We want to stick up for stores who are getting robbed. We've infringed upon the rights of people in our community. We've made it so people can't go into parks or stores or take their family down to Seattle to sightsee or all that stuff. And like I said, the goal for the community is simple, same goal. People that are suffering from addiction to reach independence, teaching communities how to do that process. Because how can a human feel good if they're not independent? Independence, and then a community that moves on and gets over it. A community that says, hey, we see what happened here, and then we fixed it. And we've gotten the drugs out of our community. We've actually taken measures to get fentanyl out of here. I just want everyone to be reminded of how many people work for this and how many people are surrounding it and breathing into it and giving it life.